Hello everybody and welcome to Mining Modern. I'm Corbin Hosler and this is Transmogrify in Modern. That's right, we are going to play Transmogrify, exile target creature. A creature's controller reveals cards until they hit a creature, puts it onto the battlefield. We're going to try to hit Emrakul. That's what our deck is going to do. So, you've seen a deck like this. It's a polymorph deck essentially, right? This deck is crazy in Modern. It has so many angles going for it. So, we can get creatures thanks to, and this is the beauty of this deck, thanks to Dwarven Mine. This weird common mountain non-basic land from Eldraine. It enters battlefield tapped to control 3 or more mountains, but if it enters untapped, you get a 1/1 red dwarf. Well, that'll give you a creature to exile to Transmogrify, and then from there, you're either going to hit Primeval Titan to go get more Dwarven Mines, or you're going to hit Emrakul. That's what you can do. Oh, by the way, Through the Breach, that's a pretty good one with both Primeval Titan and Emrakul. And if you're going to play Primeval Titan, well, you might as well play Valakut the Molten Pinnacle. We're playing a lot of mountains. Why not? It's a Valakut deck, but it is a wildly different Valakut deck than what you're used to seeing. I found this in a 5-0 dump from a few weeks ago. It was Chancery who pulled it off, so congrats to them. This is an incredible looking deck, I think. I'm excited to play this. We've got the 1 Lightning Bolt to deal some damage to people. We've got 8 2-mana ramp spells. We've got Search for Tomorrows, which can come down early. Everything else is, that's the deck. Oh, and did I mention, last card here, Transmogrify is a good way to get Emrakul into play. Another way to do that, Indomitable Creativity. Destroy X target artifacts or creatures feat permanent destroyed this way. Controller reveals until they hit an artifact or creature and put it into play. Well, we're going to reveal until we hit, you guessed it, an Emrakul or a Primeval Titan. That's what this deck does. It is a Valakut deck unlike almost any I've seen before. Pretty excited to play it. Now, the sideboard, nothing too special here. Veil of Summer is protecting some counter magic, Anchor of the Gods for wipes. Field of the Dead, I believe. Now, keep in mind, I'm no expert with this deck, but I believe Field of the Dead comes in when you expect people to give themselves hexproof or something like that. Yeah, we'll figure it out as we go, right? Why not? Boil to get rid of those pesky islands, all of them, and Force of Vigor when you need to kill artifacts or enchantments. That's the deck, everybody. Transmogrify Breach in Modern. Let's get to the games. Alright, it's Transmogrify Breach in Modern. And unfortunately, though, this one looks like a mulligan. It's got a Through the Breach, Emrakul, and ramp spells. Everything you want, right? Well, not quite. No green sources here. Ship this back, and, well, this looks, I guess, a little better. Not really, but what are you going to do? I suppose we keep it. I will get rid of this Indomitable Creativity. We've got a Dwarven Mine here. The problem is, this hand is just so slow. We're on the play. That's good, but will we have time without any ramp spells to get 3 mountains into play? We don't even have 3 mountains right now to get the Dwarven Mine to then Transmogrify into an Emrakul. That's a very slow clock in 2020 Modern. We'll see what happens here. You know, the good news is we do have a Through the Breach. So drawing any of the 8 creatures in the deck, the Primeval Titans or the Emrakuls, is good in a long game situation. Now, our opponent probably going to end up Thoughtseizing us or something here. Yep, Inquisition of Kozilek. Well, joke's on you, friend. None of these cards get hit. I guess we both mulliganed, huh? Take a good long look at our hand, and, well, when you see Transmogrify and Through the Breach, I think you could probably put 2 and 2 together, but if you can't, they have a handy, you know, giveaway here with the Dwarven Mine. So, our opponent now knows entirely what we're up to. But I guess, hey, the good news is they wasted their Inquisition of Kozilek. Alright, we'll go grab a Stomping Ground here and cross our fingers that we can find a ramp spell here on turn 2. You know, Search for Tomorrow, not quite a ramp spell, but honestly not the worst here. I could play it now and get it in 2 turns. I could cast it next turn. All really the same, I guess. I might as well go ahead and suspend it. Well, I guess we're on track for something like a turn 5 Emrakul here. Barring, Thoughtseize from our opponent or counter magic or killing us before then. A lot of things can go wrong. But hey, I guess, we're also playing to this Valakut win if our opponent doesn't put pressure on us. Not really any bad draws. Land number 5. Well, I suppose we have the suspended spell, but, land is reasonable here. It amounts to land number 6. If we were to draw it, I suppose it would allow us to cast, say, Primeval Titan. But the point is, land is not the worst, and not land is okay, too. Now, our opponent does have a Thoughtseize here. Probably Grixis Shadow based on the old, Grixis colors and Fetch Shock Thoughtseize pattern here. They take the Transmogrify, well, and now they Thoughtseize again and take the Through the Breach. Well, we're a lands deck. We got lands. Our opponent, after all of that, somehow was still 4 cards in hand. So this is going to be a rough one. Well, see what happens here. Now, next turn, we'll get our search for tomorrow. So on this turn, I would not hate a Farseek, something like that. I do kind of hate a basic Mountain. I say that. It allows us to, get our token off of our Dwarven Mine next turn. But without a Transmogrify or an Indomitable Creativity, and remember, I did put Indomitable Creativity on the bottom of the library on my mulligan. Maybe if we'd put that Valakut there, things might have looked a little different. Could have very well had an Emrakul right now. Double Death Shadow for my opponent. No third land drop. Well, let's see what happens here. I say that. I don't know that, putting lands on bottom might have been problematic given our hand and the no ramp spells. So, it's hard to, I don't know that I made, I don't know that was an incorrect decision earlier. Just certainly a decision that maybe didn't quite work out. That said, kind of got Valakut working here. As a matter of fact, if I'm not wrong, this is a Mountain. This would trigger the Valakut. These are 2/2s. If my opponent cannot lose life next turn, this Dwarven Mine would actually allow us, because we now have 5 mountains in play. Every mountain we play from here on out is a Valakut trigger. We could point stuff at the Death Shadows. Now, excuse me, unfortunately for us, our opponent hits the fetch land, so instead we're just taking, monstrous amounts of damage from these Death Shadows. Unlucky. That said, what would we need to hit? We get him at a virtual 5 off the Dwarven Mine. Is there anything that gets 2 lands into play for us? I don't think so. Well, Explorer's not the worst, I guess. Let's see what we got. This has been an interesting game, that's for sure. And obviously my opponent's probably sitting on Stubborn Denial and we just have actual no chance of winning right now, but you do what you can do, and there is the Stubborn Denial. Well, we'll play the Dwarven Mine. This is just terrible, though, because I can't Lightning Bolt them, because then we die. Yeah, we're just out of this one. Unlucky. Veil of Summers, yes, please. Boils? Don't mind if I do. Don't know that they're great. I don't know that they're bad either. Don't need to worry about bolting our opponent, I guess. Problem is that I'm not really sure what you're supposed to cut in this deck. I don't know. Is it blasphemy to cut a Primeval Titan in this deck? We're kind of just cheating them into play. It's not really like a thing where we need them in our hands. We do have to cut something. This is hard. I don't know. Maybe just cut another one of these. I mean, I think it's safe to say our opponent's going to have all kinds of interaction for what we're trying to do here. So I'm not I think we just kind of want to play a similar game plan to the last game, but either have more cards in hand to be able to sort of have that last flurry of mountains to finish them off, or do something maybe a little more unfair. And I guess this is not a bad start. We've got a couple lands, an Explorer, a Veil to protect against Thoughtseize, an Emrakul, which, you know, on the one hand, Emrakul in hand is obviously bad. It's basically a mulligan. But on the other hand, Emrakul in hand means that at any point in this game, we will have the out of having 5 mana and drawing through the breach and Emrakuling our opponent. I've played a lot of Emrakul decks. One of my, I guess, probably more memorable decks I've ever done for Mighty Modern. I just call it the Emrakul deck. Bunch of hideaway lands, stuff like that. I don't know how good that deck would be in 2020 Modern, but it was pretty good in, say, 2019 Modern. And I just always love that tension, you know. If you have a Through the Breach, you can always draw an Emrakul and win. If you have an Emrakul, you can always draw Through the Breach and win. It's great. Right now, though, let's go ahead and chalk in this Stomping Ground and Veil Summer this Thoughtseize. That's a clean 2-for-1 right there. And now we get to explore. See where things go. We have the Dwarven Mine, and now we have access to 3 mountains. So it looks like we're actually on track for an actual turn 3 Indomitable Creativity hitting either Primeval Titan or Emrakul. It's 3 of each in the deck right now. So this is a nice looking hand from this deck. You know, I don't know obviously how, if this is a powerhouse Modern deck, if it was a fluke that it got a 5-0, but it definitely caught my eye. And this is a strong looking hand to show why. All right, double triggers from our opponent's baubles here. Have all the cards. And a boil. Well, it doesn't do anything yet, but that's okay. Our opponent is likely to put some islands into play. Now, at the very least, we'll draw out a Stubborn Denial or Censor, or who knows what counter magic that deck plays, but you get the idea. Okay, let's go ahead and explore here. That's a Primeval Titan. Now we're biased slightly towards hitting Emrakul next turn off this Indomitable Creativity. Now, I suppose our opponent actually has to not kill the token in response here. It's for each permanent destroyed this way. And now, I say that, our opponent's going to Inquisition away the Indomitable Creativity. That's okay, though. I think, I mean, I guess we'll see our opponent with basic Swamp here. So we're left with a boil, but we actually have no, they have no islands to hit. Which is, you know, a good and a bad thing, but I can fetch out another land here. I can play the Dwarven Mine, actually get a token, which, hey, that's nice. And then we're working towards a Primeval Titan. We're at 4-5 now. I think actually I'm going, since we're not doing anything on this turn, I'm just going to play the Cinder Glade. Sure, it comes into play tap. Doesn't really matter because we're not doing anything, but I don't want to make the token and let my opponent lightning bolt it, or probably don't have fatal pushes in there, but, you know, let them remove it and then have a draw Transmogrify or something. Let's save it until we can get to a point where this ability, we put into play, the ability resolves, the token's in play, and before our opponent gets priority, we cast Transmogrify or Indomitable Creativity. So I think that's the line. And look at that. Sometimes you play all right and you get rewarded. You love to see it. Not that our opponent has blue mana, but we get to aim the Transmogrify here. Now, obviously, removal gets us, but who cares? We get a card out of their hand. We tried to do our thing, and the worst case scenario is next turn we draw a land and play a Primeval Titan. So this isn't even a 2-for-1. They traded a Fatal Push for our Transmogrify, but it's a thing where they make the trade, sure. That's playing Magic against a Grixis Shadow deck. They trade their cards for yours, but if they don't have the removal spell, they just lose, in all likelihood. So that's why it's pretty sweet when you get this value just out of your lands that, oh, by the way, happen to be mountains for your Valakut game plan. All of that said, we are by no means out of the woods in this game. Now, we have I think lots of probably good draws, but we have some bad ones too. And our opponent clinging to dust, our Transmogrify, just trying to draw lands over there. But they have a lot of gas in their hand, and we don't necessarily. You know, we need a Through the Breach to unlock the Emrakul. We need a land to unlock the Primeval Titan. We need our opponent to play islands to unlock the Boil if they just, you know, lose a bunch of life and then you do something like this. They play Gurmag Angler. We don't actually have any way to interact with this. If we draw another 15 drop, we could just lose this game. Or or we could draw Through the Breach. Like I said, anytime you have a Through the Breach or an Emrakul in hand, you've got a prayer. And in this case, that prayer was answered. Emrakul the Aeons Torn. Sacrifice 6 permanents, please. Take 15 damage. Protection from colored spells. I don't get the extra turn, but I do win the match. Even better than an extra turn. Rather, win the game. So, okay. That worked out how we wanted it to. Let's see if we can do the same thing in Game 3. I don't think I really want to change anything. You saw why I sort of have gone away from the Transmogrify Indomitable Creativity plan based on what our opponent did there. Now, as a matter of fact, I might be willing to go even a little deeper, bring this Primetime back in, especially on the draw here. Our opponent is, you know, just very likely to be able to interact with whatever we're going to do. Let's actually add the Primetime in. Hope that we see maybe the ramp half of our deck here. Maybe a couple ramp spells, a Veil of Summer in the opener. And then we have a solid game plan, even if we aren't able to pull off anything fancy. Ask, and you shall receive. This looks like the exact hand I want. Double Explore, 2 Explore, you might say. And an Indomitable Creativity. If we can just find, I guess, piece together one more mountain here, it's going to be looking very solid. Even, and the thing is, the worst case scenario is our opponent has, you know, double discard spell. Well, it's not so bad. Explore is one of the best cards to get out of that. They're almost forced to take the Indomitable Creativity with the first Thoughtseize anyways. Oh, by the way, they mulligan to 5. So things looking up here in Game 3. All right, and it is the Thoughtseize. So they're going to grab the Indomitable Creativity here, but this is fine. I think what we're most concerned about is our opponent having just a really quick game where they can lower their life total to 7 or 8, put a, you know, 4/4/5/5 Death Shadow out there, something like that, and just beat us to death before we're able to kind of get anywhere. That's what I'm concerned about. So, you know, fetch, shock, Thoughtseize on turn 1 is the ideal opener for the Grixis Shadow deck to ride an early Death Shadow. So we'll see what happens here. You know, drawing another mountain for us is okay. Not, you know, we were reasonably confident to get there at some point, so it's fine. Here's an Inquisition taking out another Explorer, but that means our opponent is not losing life yet. Remember, they mulled to 5, so they're going to be down. In theory, they're going to be down something here. It's very difficult for all of the resources of your deck, your lands, your colors, your mix of disruption plus threats, for it to all come together. And our opponent here had plenty of disruption. And they've got some land drops, so you would hope that something's missing since they mulligan to 5. Because they have decimated our game plan thus far. Let's cast an Explorer and see where things go. You know what? That's not bad. Search for Tomorrow here. I don't love that I'm ended up taking damage from this, but probably is fine. There's a Transmogrify. You can't play against the top of our deck. And this is looking pretty decent. I'm going to have to shock this in, but I think that's okay. We'll suspend this Search for Tomorrow. And don't look now, but we're set up to try to resolve a Transmogrify next turn. Wooded Foothills. Make a 1/1. Make a 15/15, hopefully. Now, let's see what our opponent's up to here. I would not hate to see them tap out. I won't lie. And the thing is, Transmogrify actually safe from Inquisition. So it's just Thoughtseize or just outside of, something in some kind of graveyard, hey, Grafdigger's Cage, etc. Although I don't even know if it would work like that. But Death Shadow tapping your blue source? That feels good for me. All right, we got the backup plan of the Search for Tomorrow here. And this Valakut, by the way. I mean, it's not like things are going to go poorly here almost no matter what we do. But let's get the Dwarven Mine. The fact that this is fetchable is unreal, I might add. No more Dryad Arbor shenanigans. You just get an untapped land that gives it to you for free. And now this little dwarf becomes this big Emrakul, and the Aeons are torn. Now, our opponent does get to untap, and if they have, I guess, a Liliana, we'd be in trouble. Liliana plus land. Otherwise, though, we're done here. We're done here. There you go. Taking it down. Red, green, Breach, Transmogrify, the 15-15 Emrakul plan working out pretty well. And when your Valakut deck wins 2 games handily without Valakut being involved, that is something that is pretty nice to have in this format. So everybody, that was a great match. Let's see if we can take down another. Do you think that all hands in the deck look this good? Because I have to say, this looks like a pretty good hand to me. Got the Search for Tomorrow, the Farseek, the Indomitable Creativity, access to 3 mountains and a Dwarven Mine. This is the dream. Thoughtseize, not quite the dream here, but we'll see where things go. Our opponent looks like they mulligan down to 6. Probably hit the Indomitable Creativity with the Thoughtseize. Fair enough. However, wow, they actually took the Search for Tomorrow. Okay. That's an interesting line. I don't know what the plan is there. They saw the Dwarven Mine in our hand even. Do they think they can kill us before then? Our Confidant gonna more likely to kill them. I just gonna cast the Farseek here and just try to make an Emrakul on turn 3. It's insane. This deck is crazy. Look at that. I don't even have to lose life to do it. Alright, cast a Farseek. Get a Stomping Ground. And, by the way, be immune to 1 Thoughtseize effect here with this hand. Alright. Dark Confidant finally undoes their mulligan with the Godless Shrine. But Godless Shrine doesn't stop us from doing what we're doing here. Now, our opponent probably has removal. And if we hit Primeval Titan instead of Emrakul, I guess the game's not over, even though we would obviously get a lot of value out of that and have another Transmogrify and or Indomitable Creativity in hand. And the thing is, I actually don't even think we need to search our library to do this. Yeah, the Sidehauler Scholar is not going to get it done. We just very, very skillfully, I should say, very skillfully drew a second copy of this effect. Our opponent had a game plan. You can see it. They said we're going to take the Search for Tomorrow, so you have no turn 1 play. I'm going to play this Confidant on 2 to try to get ahead on the game. And I'm going to play Scholar on 3 to take the effect. I know you have the turn before you can do it. What they did not guard against with that pretty reasonable line of thinking, honestly, was the fact that we just had another one in our hand that they hadn't seen. That's a tough break. This game isn't over, though. I'd almost rather hit a Primeval Titan, I think. It's hard to say. Obviously, it's not that hard to say. I want to hit Emrakul, which we did. But it all comes down to whether they have a Liliana or a similar sacrifice effect right now. Otherwise, this one should be done. See what happens with this Confidant trigger. Technically, my opponent's at 16. They could take a hit, go to 1 if somehow they were able to put pressure of their own on the board. But this Confidant might take care of that. Okay, yep. As a matter of fact, they did. It's a Stoneforge Mystic. Good card. Pretty useless right now. Protection from colored spells. Wow, they have the Liliana. Just like that, riches to rags. Remember when I said I think I'd rather hit a Primeval Titan? The reason for that. You know, it's not a guarantee that these black-white decks have Liliana. Sometimes there's creature heavier taxes based ones, but a lot of times they do, and that's a blowout. Our hand was incredible, but they had the perfect answer. And now I think it's draw Emrakul in the next turn or two or lose. But drawing Emrakul is a way to win. You know, Arid Mesa, not quite. I can use it to get another Dwarven Mine and get a 1/1. I can actually trade with the Confidant if I wanted. Which is an interesting thing to keep in mind. Next time we could cast the Primeval Titan and mess around with Through the Breaching It. This game isn't over. Honestly, I have another fetch land in hand. If my opponent attacks, I would block the Confidant with a Dwarven Mine token. Now, our opponent is eventually going to end up on this Batterskull plane here with Stoneforge. Or something else, unbeatable. They might just get a sword and put it into play. Hate the Batterskull. We're in trouble here, for sure, but we're not dead. Guard Emrakul wins the game. Our opponent can't block flying, and it does 15 damage. Yep. This is fine. We have to take a point here, but we're saving life. We have another one and the fetch lane to get it. And also, this, very slightly, I guess, improves our odds on our draw step here, but this works out on every angle. We're very far behind, though, and obviously our opponent could have a fatal push or something here to just remove it mattering, but nothing we can do about that. The question is, do we get another turn after this? Is my opponent going to Field of Ruin us? That's actually great. I love this Field of Ruin. This really doesn't impact us much at all, but it gives us a very slightly better chance next turn of drawing a good card, and the Path to Exile does the same. So, look, that's where we're at. We're hoping to draw a good card. We're playing on the margins here, but hey, sometimes you get lucky and you pull off the win. So, all right, prayer hands emoji. Indomitable Creativity, you say? Well, okay. Let's think this one through. Obviously, we can fire it off on our own, which we will. Hitting Primeval Titan now, not that good, but hitting Liliana, not really that good either. There's 3 Dwarven Mines in play. I just don't even know if we can win. I was going to say, I could also hit the Stoneforge to make it more expensive to put the Batterskull into play. This is rough, I won't lie. We don't have any extra... Man. We don't have any extra... This is great, but we're going to lose. We have no extra Dwarven Mines, even if we hit the prime time. Liliana just being an absolute monster right now. But look, I think we get one more draw step. This Emrakul, once he gets sacrificed, is going to shuffle into our library, along with a bunch of cards we don't draw. We don't want to draw, rather. But it looks like we're going to have a 4 in, 51 chance drawing an Emrakul and winning the game. Or not. Our opponent with another Liliana. That one to attack our hand. We're done here. Alright, does this work? Yeah, it's target opponent. Alright, this works. This is kind of where Field of the Dead is good, too, I think. Anger is probably okay. Lightning Bolt, I think, is probably actively good. Gosh, I still have to keep cutting. This is rough. We'll do something crazy like this. Keep in mind, I have no idea what I'm doing here, but... Well, you know what? I can actually get that Emrakul back and cut a land. Well, that's alright. I put in a colorless land. It might even be just correct to treat it as a spell. Now, this just feels bad. In Anger of the Gods, a Transmogrify, a Primetime, and Explore, but no green source, and a deck full of fetch lands. Do I ship it? No. Our deck is 30 lands or something, 29 lands. There's an absurd amount of lands in our deck. Our opponent is going to tear apart whatever hand we have anyway. So let's just have an Anger of the Gods hand that will demand an answer from our opponent, or be able to remove it if they don't have the Thoughtseize and instead just have a couple creatures. So, and you know what? Our deck's a million lands. If we never draw a fetch land, we can't win the game anyway. So let's take our lumps here with the Thoughtseize and hope that, you know, we flip a coin well here. Probably something like a 35-40% chance. Because not all, you know, remember, we have other just basic mountains in our deck, which would turn on the Dwarven Mine, but wouldn't actually help with anything else. Not that that would be the worst. I mean, that would give us a game plan. Alright, Veil of Summer, not the draw we wanted. Our opponent actually Thoughtseized Primeval Titan there, which is, I think, a pretty interesting decision. Now, it's not going to matter if we can't draw lands of any stripe here. The actual half of our deck is lands right now, though, so that's good. But taking the Primeval Titan, a card I'm nowhere near casting, a card I don't have a Through the Breach to cheat into play. I'm not sure where they're going with that. I know the fact that I'm unable to Veil some of this Collective Brutality is a beating, though. But this isn't the worst. Our opponent used their Thoughtseize to take a card that wasn't that relevant. They trade their 2 mana for our Veil here. I mean, we're still kind of scraping by with this sketchy hand, if you want to look at it that way. Well, I guess I play this just to keep the dream of this Dwarven Mine alive. I say Field of the Dead, pretty bad here, though. It's not how it's supposed to be. Our deck is now more than half land. Just give us a land. We flip tails the first time. Give us heads this time. Let me explore. Let me cast some cards. The worst card from our opponent would be Liliana, as it, you know, typically is. But Liliana just start ticking up. I guess our plan at that point is discard Anger and hope to get lucky over the next 2 draw steps. We can beat creatures. We can compete against, you know, discard. I think I can beat Kaya. I can't beat Liliana, but I think I can beat Kaya. They're exiling our graveyard. I suppose that's fine. I don't think that's super relevant. They might be saving Liliana for us getting a creature, which makes it, you know, be really nice if we actually hit Primeval Titan. Not to hand, though. Yeah, it's hard in this deck, frankly. It is hard to have hands that can't do anything. You're playing a bunch of expensive spells. So yeah, you'd think, yeah, a bunch of games you'll never have any plays, you'll look like this, but it's actually pretty rare given how many lands there are, how many ramp spells there are. It's very difficult for this deck, I think, to end up in sort of that traditional problem where the you draw the wrong half of your deck, so to speak. That's what's happening to us here. But generally these modern decks, these Valakut decks in Modern, are so streamlined that's not really an issue, and I think this deck actually bridges things well enough that it should really not be an issue in this deck, but, you know, hey. Every now and then you're going to get color screwed. What did we name? We named Dwarf. Okay. Guess I'll take 2. See what happens. Are we going to lose to this? Probably. What, do we have 2 cards in exile? All we had to do is make land drops in this game. All we had to do is hit 1 forest, and this Field of the Dead would have got going. And now this is pretty bad. I didn't Anger of Gods the way just the Plague Engineer. It was bait, I thought. Unfortunately, our opponent following up with the Tideholder Scholar. I could always Transmogrify it and hope that our opponent hits something less scary than, something we can just anger the gods back. Yeah, there's the Emrakul. Well, we're nowhere near dead, so despite how dead I feel at this point in this game, no reason to scoop quite yet. Chalk this one up to some unlucky draws, but hey, important to see the downside of decks, right? You see, we always have some fun moments on the series, and we get to see the upside of decks when things are going perfectly. Now I'm just tilted we don't have a basic forest in our deck, which is pretty funny. But another mountain. Anyways, I want to give everyone the full picture of the deck, so I don't doctor my games. I don't record 10 matches and show you the best 3. We play 3 or 4 matches. That's what we've got. So it's good to know that this can happen. Sword of Fire and Ice. All right, well, I would take an Anger of the Gods off the top right now. Or, a forest. Oh my gosh, is it too late? I don't know. This is actually getting us because I can't make a dwarf and Transmogrify. But I can get a Cinder Glade. I don't even have to take damage here. Grab a Cinder Glade, explore, and see where it happens. A Valakut. Well, we might be dead here. We're going to get hit by a Sword of Fire and Ice. We were just probably even just one turn too slow. Just only one turn, I think. Now we can hit through the breach to win the game, though. We're taking 8, so the game's just definitely over next turn. I guess hitting a forest, which might keep us alive. 5. Are we just dead to the Kaya? Exile owns an exile. Well, that's 3, so we're not dead to Kaya. We get another draw step here. I don't know what we're supposed to do with that draw step. I think that it's through the breach or bust. Unfortunately, it appears to be bust. So I'd have to shock to get a green source. I could Transmogrify this thing and have... Oh, it has protection from red. I cannot do that. Alright, we're dead. Just too slow. Just got hosed on our mana. Alright, on to the next one. It happens. But yeah, like I was to finish that point earlier before we move on. I do think it's important to see what can go wrong, an honest look at the deck. And having no green sources, Primeval Titans, and Emrakul in hand, rare, but it can happen. All right, on to the next match. All right, this seems to be a recurring theme here of no green sources. This seems bizarre. I think it's just a bad RNG here. RNG is just not on our side tonight, but I'm going to ship this one. All right, this is a keep. I will ship, I suppose, this this mountain here. And look, we're going to take big damage in this game, but it is a pretty explosive hand. It's a solid Valakut hand, I have to say. To spin this thing, explore next turn. We get to kind of free roll the Valakut into play as the extra land drop, not really losing anything as our opponent trons it up, huh? Okay. Tower map, Urzaland map, turn 1. Name a more iconic duo. Alright, 2 explorers. Okay, let's cast this explorer. See what we hit here. Alright, put a Valakut into play. Well, it is a Valakut game. We have 3 ramp spells in our hand, and another one coming off suspend next turn. So, good news is, after this turn, we will be able to cast whatever we want on turn 4 here, I guess. And actually, a huge break there for us. Our opponent doesn't have a second uniquely named Urza land, so this Expedition map does not lead to a turn 3 Urza land cycle to cast Karn or what have you, Worm Coils. So catching a break here. This is nice. When they don't always have the best possible thing, right? Excuse me. Well, I think that we've encountered one problem with our plan. And that's that we don't have so many green sources in this deck. Seems to be a real thing. Yeah. I mean, I just have to get like a Stomping Ground here. Put it into play tapped. And pass the turn. So we have access to 2 green next turn. I'm not sure what the fix would be to needing more green mana. Green sources. Like, obviously you say play more fetch lanes. Maybe there's 6 basic mountains in the deck. You probably want something like 4 basic mountains, another Cinder Glade or 2. Another fetch land, maybe even something like that. Because at this point, it's a real issue. These green sources. So there's something to keep in mind. All right. Well, it wasn't turn 3. It's about all you can ask for. It is, however, going to be turn 4 from our opponent here. But that's an Indomitable Creativity. Now, unfortunate that they got cast in this order. Well, in that case, let's go ahead and I guess we'll just explore. Fetch land or something would be really good here. Through the Breach, not quite as good. Let's go ahead and put our 5th mountain into play, though. So we've got a Lightning Bolt. A fetch land gives us an Indomitable Creativity. An Emrakul or Primeval Titan give us those. Lightning Bolt exists basically to get exiled to Karn here when they go for our hand. Oh, they're going to go for the Valakut itself. You know what? It's actually fine. Sort of, anyways. This can actually... Alright. This is one of the... I guess one of the better outcomes. Let's see what we hit. Lots of good draws. Some bad ones, though. Yeah, definitely some bad ones. And another Karn is pretty bad for us, too. This is not looking great. And the draw step of an Explorer is one of the worst possible. Yeah, there's the Wooded Foothills. Well, I guess we do what we can do. We get the Dwarven Mine. We get our 1/1. And then we turn it into something. Now, the problem is that this other Karn in our opponent's hand is actually still going to get us. And that's a bad thing, generally, for your combo deck when you pull off your combo and you still lose. But it happened to us last match, and it might happen to us this match. Just gets to freely exile our Emrakul and has another one in hand. I mean, we get one more draw step here, I guess, technically. Depending on how many permanents our opponent has in play, we could hit another Emrakul. Or in theory, I guess a Primeval Titan, we could attack the Karn itself. Instead, Karn actually going downstairs because they got more Karns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 permanents in play. So an Emrakul here probably doesn't even get us anywhere. The cage doesn't even beat us, so... Alright, we're dead this game, but I want to see here. You reveal from the top, and then you exile it. And then it goes from exile into play. It doesn't go into play from your library. It works with Indomitable Creativity. What about Transmogrify? Where'd that thing go? Well, I guess we're dead here. We might as well look in sideboarding. Transmogrify. Exile. So with this one, they do come into play from the library. Actually good to know. Okay. What do we do against Tron? None of these cards seem to be particularly pointed at Tron. Force of Vigor would be the closest, but I don't think we want any of these. I think we run it back. It's interesting. It's not often I'm in a red-green deck that I feel like we don't have sideboard options for Tron, but it's kind of unfortunate that our combo doesn't really beat them. Now, Through the Breach is the half of the combo that does. Yeah, I'm going to keep this one. Well, the thing is, fetching here is actually kind of kind of bad. Because if we don't hit another fetch, this Indomitable Creativity doesn't do anything. So I'm actually going to take, I don't know. It's against Tron too, so it's like, I'd almost consider playing the Cinder Glade here. And then next turn, just playing the Mountain and suspending the Search for Tomorrow. I guess this, and then on turn 3, that happens. And then it's a turn 4 Transmogrify. Well, or Indomitable Creativity. Is that good enough? Is a turn 4 Emrakul or Primeval Titan good enough to win this game, even on the play? I don't know that it is. I think I just have to take a shot here. I think we really have to have it on turn 3. And even that isn't necessarily good enough depending on our opponent's hand. Now, Chromatic Sphere on turn 1 is thankfully not Expedition Map, but our plan could backfire here. And with all these lands, it's not always going to work out the way we want it to. And Primeval Titan there, not the dream. It's not the worst, but it's really not what we wanted. I really like this build of Valakut. Honestly, it's a deck that excuse me, it's a Valakut deck that honestly doesn't need Valakut at all. It's almost a value engine more than a combo piece in the deck. But we've got some awkward draws with, that's for sure. That this doesn't happen in your traditional Valakut deck that isn't messing around with this card. That said, might all work out here. Because we do hit the fetch land in time, we do get the Dwarven Mine, and we do get a cast Indomitable Creativity on that dwarf. Primeval Titan it is. Well, this is pretty solid, actually, because we get to get another Dwarven Mine here, just to have a body. I could also grab this, or I could grab Valakut. I have 4 mountains in play. Actually get a lightning bolt something here. I could play a green source next turn to play the Primeval Titan. What if it was... Well, we have 2 mountains in here. What if I got, like, Field of the Dead, Valakut? I kind of don't hate that. The thing is, though, I'm definitely going to get more triggers next turn when I play the other Primeval Titan. And all this is assuming that my opponent has an answer to this Titan, which, I think it's fair to assume that they probably do. But I'm just trying to think about the long game here. What if I got Field of the Dead and Dwarven Mine, since we already have a Valakut? That allows us to beat... And I guess it doesn't actually, beat anything, per se. It does allow us, if they have Karn, to... And it -3s itself down to 3, and then it would be able to do it again, to actually poke that Karn, which I think is sort of a real thing. So, at the same time, I do want a green source. So what if it was well, and our only green source is Stomping Ground, which is a duplicate. Alright, I think it's Field of the Dead, Dwarven Mine. That, or we just get Valakut, Field of the Dead. And then next turn, we play another Valakut, play a Titan. This is probably the better line. Valakut. It's just got to be Valakut, Field of the Dead. I'm sorry I took so long through that. I'm sure there's Valakut players out there who are like, this is the most obvious thing in the world, but I did have to work through it a little bit. But now, excuse me, our opponent has to have Tron, which they did, natural Tron. Now they have to have an answer to our Primeval Titan. I don't know that Karn the Great Creator is it. Let's see what they get. We've got, I mean, I think we just have, it's an Ensnaring Bridge, which they can play. And they have exactly 5 lands in hand, or 5 cards in hand. So this Titan cannot attack. All right, well, you know what can attack? These zombies we're going to end up making. Not anything else, though. All right, well, this is kind of rough. I have to play the Cinder Glade to even be able to cast this Titan. Unless I threw the breach to the Titan, but, would that matter? Does that matter? What if I played Valakut? Then I, threw the breach to the Titan to go get 2 lands, which are mountains. When we have, that would trigger it. We would then have 2 Valakuts and 2 triggers. Or, I'm sorry, 2 lands coming into play. It's 4 triggers. That's 12 damage. Next turn we can play the Cinder Glade. It's 18 damage. Might be the line. Is that or play Cinder Glade now? Put him down to 14. I think it's probably all the same. So I'm going to lean towards just casting it. I could also get another Dwarven Mine here to have an attacker to poke at Karn. If I want to do that. Alright, what about Field of the Dead here? We need 7 differently named lands. So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, this is real good then. Yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 differently named lands. We just get I guess a regular mountain. That'll give us a trigger. And then a Dwarven Mine? It's that or a fetch land. It's actually the fetch land, I think, because of the Field of the Dead here. Yeah, this seems good. Because now our opponent's actually going to have a difficult time getting underneath the number of cards for Ensnaring Bridge. And we get to take down the Karn. So it looks like we might get to poke for 4 here next turn, which is, you know, relevant in the sense that that's fewer lightning bolts we have to point at their face, but also by shooting down this Karn, and this Karn, all it did was get a defensive spell for them, and then we had that turn anyways, and we have, you know, a Valakut in hand plus a fetch land. This game feels okay to me. Our opponent needs something big, because they're not going to be able to just Karn us out at this point. We have too many, I think. Now, Thragtusk is not bad. Not a bad one. Thragtusk gives him life, gives him a blocker. I can lightning bolt it. And they get to 4 cards and they have a ballista. Okay. It's all fine, I think. They're 25. That is annoying. Alright, we'll play the Valakut. Get a Field of the Dead trigger. Play the Explore. Get an Emrakul with a Through the Breach in hand. Doesn't really actually do as much as you want it to, as it turns out. But this will. We can bolt the Thragtusk, bolt the Ballista, and I guess just play this game against our opponent for now. They're just going to shoot us. Okay. Well, I'm going to swing with the zombies because we got to get damage in one way or another here. Always yes, please. Save some time in the future here. All right, well, we got the Thragtusk and the Walking Ballista down. We're at 14. We've got cards that should be good, right? Well, let's go ahead and do this. I'll fetch. Am I going to run out of lands at some point? Is that something? Nah, we're good. Make another trigger. Bolt the beast. Bolt the face. All right, there we go. So we're going to get in for 4. Put our opponent to 18. We have 10 power in play. This is absolutely what the Field of the Dead is here for. And our opponent is up to 5 cards in hand. Now, having the land drop there helps. Though the Ancients are cycling, they have to get down to 1 card in hand at the end of all of this, or the zombies crash in. And that's 10 points of damage, putting them, pretty close to the brink at that point. We're out of land drops, so this game is far from over. And they hit a Karn with the Ancient Stirrings. So I don't know what they have to try to dig out of this, but it's conceivable that they could dig out of this. And Snaring Bridge is a heck of a Magic card. Somehow there's no Ancient Grudges in the sideboard of this deck. I have some suggestions for the sideboard when we get to that after this match. But let's see if we can pull it off. Our opponent has not activated Karn, it seems. They did, however, get to 1 card in hand as they wanted. So we need mountains. Fortunately, our deck is full of them. But our opponent can find a Worm Coil or something. No, they can't. There's a Snaring Bridge in play. I'm not sure what their win condition is right now. It's actually not Oblivion Stone. For what it's worth. That is not the win condition. As soon as they crack that stone, they die to our Through the Breach Emrakul. And in the meantime, we just do this. We just play Farseek. We just send 6 points to their face. And that's the game we're playing. Only takes 2 more lands to do this. I really do want always yes. Come on. All right, down to 12 past the turn. Yeah, O-Stone is a complete non-starter, actually, from our opponent, because not only would they lose as soon as they crack it, it doesn't even interact with what we're doing to them. They need Karn. They need big 7-mana Karn to exile Valakut and then hope to find a way to win the game before we come up with enough land drops to lightning bolt them. So they get to cycle a bunch of stars here, though, a bunch of eggs turning into other cards. And now they get to go get something with Karn. So no Magus Inflatus anymore, but still lots of problematic things they could get here. And what if they just get a Mindslaver, right? Well, if I say that, Mindslaver wouldn't even be that good, but also keep in mind, should we want to shuffle our library, we could throw the Bridge Emrakul because it would die at the end step and shuffle in. Our opponent got Liquid Metal Coating. So that's actually a pretty good one. They can turn our Valakut. What is happening? We're blowing the O-Stone? To play a Grafdigger's Cage? What's going on? I think we won this one. Yeah, Relic doesn't do it. Wow. Well, you know what? That was something right there, but you know what? They didn't know we had this. And now they're paying the price. Plus, and this is the thing, look how dead they were anyways. That was their big play. Well, and now I'm being greedy. Now I'm thinking, what if we didn't do this? What if we tried to win it without showing it to them? But you know what? I'm not going to mess around here. No reason to get too cute, because I don't think Tron is going to, sideboard has any secret sideboard sauce because we put an Emrakul into play with Through the Breach that they wouldn't have otherwise. I think they could figure out that, you know, some of these graveyard hate, some of these cards they played weren't very good in the matchup no matter what we did. So that puts our opponent to 0. We'll see if we can take a game 3. And the thing is, I know, look, our opponent had a lot of artifacts and enchantments in play. Force of Vigor blows those up, but they get to sacrifice them all anyways. So it's just very rarely worth it. I guess in the world where they pop off with Karn, it's a little better. So I'll tell you what, I'll try to roll one in here, and we'll cut a Transmogrify. Actually, I'm gonna cut this Lightning Bolt. Although Bolt actually kills a Karn when it goes to 3. Also relevant to put our opponent at 17, since we might end up Lightning Bolting them to death. I want a hand that looks exactly like this. This hand's great. I think. I mean, we're playing. That's what happens when you play against Tron. It's no matter what year it is, no matter what cards have been printed, no matter how insane the format is, there's always the Tron test. Can you beat a Karn Liberated on turn 3? And I don't know if this hand can. Our opponent could just have the turn 3 Tron. It looks like they mulligan down to 6. Not that that means much in Tron, but this hand might just lose to a Karn. And drawing another Indomitable Creativity, not really where we wanted to be. Just need some land drops here. All right, well, Tower cracking into the star for green. Here comes the Sylvan Scrying. So it is, in fact, the turn 3 Tron. Is it the turn 3 Karn, though? And will our opponent let us get to... Okay, Farseek. All right. Well, I guess Farseek's the line here. Gives us the best shot. Actually going to get the Cinder Glade. I don't think it matters too much. We'll get the differently named one, though. Well, this is still pretty rough because we have to hit a fetch land here. Our opponent actually doesn't have the Karn. They could still have the Ugin, but... Well, you know what? Okay. If it's not a turn 3 Karn, there's hope. If we hit a fetch land, we get to play Indomitable Creativity and do our thing. That's huge. It's huge that we have so many draws that allow us to do something that probably wins us the game. Maybe not, but probably. They could always play Karn in Exile or Emrakul, but that's good. And on the other hand, we have a play even if we do nothing. Now, O-Stone, not a card I'm, I guess, hugely concerned about. I don't like it much, but let's see what happens. Yeah, it's a pretty bad draw. But this is the real one. All right. It's salvaged because of that. Because we made a land drop. Because we get to play both Explorers. Because we actually hit that Stomping Ground. And now we can through the breach a Primeval Titan into play if we want to. That's good. Or we can hit a land and just play Primeval Titan. But that's big because here's the Sanctum of Ugin. And the Ugin itself, one would assume. Just Karn Liberated. Okay. Well, this game's about to come down to what's on top of our deck. Maybe, if that even matters, it's an Ulamog on top for our opponent, but Karn's going to hit one of our lands here, and if we hit a land on top, we can through the breach of Primeval Titan to kill Karn and be in the game. If we miss, we're probably going to lose. So that's how it is so often in Modern. Whatever happens in this match, it's going to look like a blowout. Our opponent's going to destroy us with Karn and Ulamog. We're going to have no permanence. Or we're going to do this Primeval Titan at Karn here, get a million lands, and look great. It's going to be a blowout one way or another. It all comes down to this draw step. So fingers crossed. Prayer hands emoji didn't work, so we're going with the classic fingers crossed here. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't work out. Pass the turn back. Fair enough. If we had hit the land and I got to play the Through the Breach. Oh, wow, they're doing this? Okay. I would have gotten a Dwarven Mine, and I probably would have gotten a Field of the Dead. I don't think we can win now, though, because now it's too late. Now, even if we hit the land, our opponent can blow the stone, which I suppose it would be great for us, but now a Karn Great Creator has joined the party. Here comes the Grafdigger's Cage. Wow, just full of cards that don't beat us. I'm pretty sure if they just get a... they had the mana, too. Or if they just get an Ensnaring Bridge, we can't win. Land? That is a land. I can actually, like, free roll getting a Dwarven Mine here, even. Okay, well, let's see what this does to this game. I think my fear is that it's going to have been too late, but we have a second Through the Breach and a second Primeval Titan, so that's a real thing. What do I get here? I have 5 mountains in play. I could get Valakut, Field of the Dead. Oh, this is going to actually be very good for us, isn't it? Look at this. Valakut, Field of the Dead. Field triggers. We might have done something here. Move to combat. Primeval Titan attacks Karn Liberated. Another trigger. Valakut. Mountain, please. More triggers. All right, we'll get those Field of the Dead triggers on the stack. We'll send one of these at that Karn. I believe this Primeval Titan is going at the other Karn, where we will send that Valakut trigger. And I think we wipe the board now. We do. So we wipe the board of our opponent's Karns. We pass the turn back with 9 power in play. Field of the Dead, Valakuts galore. And we might even be able to beat an Ulamog. Maybe. Maybe. That's 7. That's 10 mana. Oh, my opponent couldn't even cast Ulamog. They can't cast Ulamog until next turn. Well, then they're just dead. They have to have an Ensnaring Bridge here, I think. Or that might have given them the land drop to cast it. This gets them to what? 3, 5, 8. Still 10, not 11. I think they had to hit a tower there. I think if they had hit a tower, it might have worked out. If I'm counting right, but I count to 10 right now, and that's, I think Ulamog's 11? Oh, Ulamog's 10. I'm dumb. I'm sorry. The other Ulamog 11, maybe? It's late. Regardless, I don't even... what are they going to do? Hit both Valakuts? They're going to hit both Valakuts. Okay. Well, this is an interesting game. Now that O-Stone in play could be relevant. Alright, so what happens if I threw the Breach Primeval Titan and attack with everything? Both of our... we only have 2 Valakuts and they're both exiled, so that's legitimately rough. The Field of the Dead is here. The O-Stone, however, is pretty annoying for Field of the Dead to beat. I could exile the Ulamog. I have to note that that is a line available to us with Indomitable Creativity. I think the line is going to be to attack with everything. I don't think it's worth the Primeval Titan. We just don't have a way to kill him. Yes, in this particular instance, I very much wish I had a Kessig Wolf run in our deck to go get, but we'll get in for some damage. We'll knock him down to 13. And now I think it's Indomitable Creativity on 2 of my creatures and the Ulamog. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Means we can't beat Ulamog, right? That's just something we need to probably be aware of. I'm going to actually cancel out of this. I want to make sure I don't tap my mana right, whether it ends up mattering or not. But okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, and then yeah, 1, 2, 3. I probably had it right. That's fine. All right, let's see what happens. I mean, I can't assume that this is good for us. They just hit another one anyways. Well, you know what? I got an Eldrazi too. And I even get to shuffle a bunch of good cards into my graveyard. That doesn't suck. Nor does getting another Field of the Dead trigger here. And passing the turn back. So, all right. Ball back into my opponent's court here. They can blow the O-Stone to kill our Emrakul. They're really going to do this before they attack? Oh, it's indestructible. Okay. We're the ones without the indestructible Eldrazi in this scenario. We needed them to hit a Worm Coil, not the other Ulamog. I think there's probably... I don't know how many are in the deck, but... I don't know that we can win. I think I was supposed to respond to that ability, though. I don't think we win no matter what we do. I have to hit, like, another Exile spell. Game was very close, obviously, but we were just a turn too slow, and there's a Karn anyway. Yeah, the Ulamog was good. I'm not sure. I guess our opponent probably had it all along that turn, although the Ancient Story's into that land. There goes our Field of the Dead. We'll do this, but I don't think it's enough. I think the out is to hit Emrakul here. Emrakul? Not Emrakul. We have a... Huh. Okay. We have the narrowest of outs, I think. We'll look in our deck and actually find out, but... Yeah, there's 2 Emrakuls left. Here's the deal. There's 24 cards in our deck. We're going to pull 2 of them out right now. If we want. I guess we should. Our opponent isn't going to attack us for... it doesn't matter. They're going to attack us. We're going to mill 20 when Ulamog attacks. That would put us down to 2 cards in our library. We're going to draw for our turn and be on 1 card in our library. We can still win this game. But it's going to take an Emrakul on top of our deck after our opponent mills us. So it is what it is. We're going to give it a shot and see what happens here. It would be an incredible story. I'll say that. I should have a chump block for the Ulamog here, no matter what they choose to do with Karn. I can exile the Search for tomorrow. Keep the Through the Breach in my hand. So let's see what our opponent's up to. I mean, the thing is, I don't think that what they do here really matters. Exiling our Primeval Titan, not super relevant. Attacking with Ulamog, making this exile 20. I'll say this. I'm not going to look. I could look at my exile pile. I could see if there's 4 Emrakuls in there. I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is chump block with his Dwarf token. Now let's see how bad it is here. Karn. Well, if I were them, I think that I would get Ensnaring Bridge. I think that you have to recognize the only way you lose is through the Breach Emrakul. So the play should be Ensnaring Bridge, play it, let me deck out. Right? Like, that has to be what it is. Instead, they got a Wormcoil. I can beat that. They get Ensnaring Bridge there, I can't win. But Wormcoil, that doesn't change anything. So now, we have one that matters. Uh-oh. Oh my gosh. Why is that in the deck? Why would you board in Weather the Storm against a deck that's gonna annihilate you? Well, that's funny. Alright, well, GG. It certainly won the game here. I say that. The game was probably won anyways. I'm not salty. But it does ruin any chance of a story. So the question is, do you blind flip here? It's a moot point now, but do you blind flip here, or do you fetch to slightly increase your odds? You fetch and you find out. Because how incredible would it be if we had, like, Mountain Emrakul? This is the last two cards in our deck. We fetch out the Mountain in our upkeep, draw the Emrakul through the Breach, win. Unfortunately not to be, but as you can see, like I said, this game was going to look like a blowout no matter what happened on that turn. So this was an incredible match. I think we got some really good games in here to see how this deck works. It's powerful. Transmogrify on turn 3 to put that Emrakul into play. The backup plan of Valakut and Primeval Titan, it's pretty good in Modern, I have to say. So, good game there. Let's go check out the deck. Like I said, we ran into problems with the green sources. That's the thing. That is undoubtedly true. So what would I do to fix that? I would cut one of these mountains, probably honestly 2 of these mountains, and play another Cinder Glade and another fetch land. Or 2 more Cinder Glades even. Because, but I think in theory, you fetch so that you can fetch out 2 basic mountains early, or the one Stomping Ground if you need to. But the Cinder Glades work. I think they generally work. I think at the very least you cut 1 mountain, add a second Cinder Glade. You cut 2 mountains, probably, 1 mountain, 1 snow-covered mountain, add a Cinder Glade, and a third Arid Mesa, so you're at 3 on all of them, and I think you're in a good spot. As far as the deck itself, I don't know. I don't want to mess with greatness here too much. The random Lightning Bolt is random, but could be a 4th Transmogrify if you wanted it to be. I don't really know what you would do to this deck. I mean, it is what it is. The list looks pretty tight to me. I think we had some bad luck on our draws here, although part of that might be related to the mana base. But either way, it is a powerful deck. In the sideboard, though, I would have turned a couple of these Force of Vigors into an Ancient Grudge, probably. It might have been more useful. We'll see. Everything else seems fine. I mean, maybe even want... I don't know. You saw it actually was kind of low there. The 2 Valakuts and the 1 Field of the Dead almost weren't enough. Would you put a second Field of the Dead into the sideboard? I don't know. Probably not. It probably is pretty straightforward. Obviously, sideboard's built as you would, but I didn't love this collection of cards anyways. So I like the Angers, I like the Fries, I like the Veils, and you're basically looking at the Forces and the Boils, and I'd be looking at some kind of combination of an Ancient Grudge, or, I mean, heck, you're ramping, play like Court of Call, the 5 Fracturing Gusts, blow them all up, something like that, if that's the issue you're having. But either way, it's a great set of matches, great deck, really fun one. Glad I found this. Glad I was able to share it with all of you here on Mighty Modern. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Corbin Hosler. I'll see you next week.